Welcome back. Navigating the sheer volume of updates coming out of AWS each week, it can feel like trying to drink from a fire hose, right?
Oh, absolutely, especially if you're trying to track the technical details that, actually matter for your work.
It's just constant. Every service, new features, regions, figuring out what's genuinely impactful, well, it takes time.
A lot of sifting, yeah.
And that's exactly what we're trying to do here in this deep dive. We've gone through the announcements specifically from May 27th to May 30th, 2025, based on our sources.
And the plan is to unpack the most important technical nuggets, the insights you need.
Right. We're assuming you're pretty technical, so we'll skip the 101 stuff and jump straight into the how and the why.
Think of it as your distilled update, the signal from the noise, covering what really moved the needle this past week.
Okay, let's jump right in. We're starting with databases and analytics, and there's a pretty big one right off the bat.
Definitely. Amazon Aurora DSQL is now generally available, GA.
GA. That's always a key milestone. Production readiness. So tell us about Aurora DSQL. What is it, fundamentally?
So Aurora DSQL is Amazon's take on distributed SQL, built on their Aurora architecture.
Okay. And the technical differentiators, what makes it stand out?
Well, the big ones are, it's serverless, it's inherently distributed SQL, designed for active high availability.
Some of active. Interesting.
And it offers multi-region strong consistency.
Okay, active and multi-region strong consistency. That sounds tailor-made for those cannot-fail applications. Global ones, maybe?
Precisely. The goal is truly always available applications. And they're talking about virtually unlimited scalability.
Virtually unlimited scalability and performance.
Yeah, they're claiming the fastest distributed SQL reads and writes in its market segment.
Bold claim for distributed, strongly consistent. What about availability? What's the SLA now? It's GA?
For single region, it's 4 nines, 99.99%. Multi-region bumps up to 5 nines, 99.999%.
Yeah.
5 nines.
And it has automated failure recovery built right in. How does the scaling actually work? Is it just like one big knob you turn?
No, and that's part of the flexibility. You can independently scale reads, writes, compute, and storage.
Ah, okay. So you can really tune it to your workload, avoid over-provisioning.
Exactly. Maybe you're write-heavy or read-heavy. Scale what you need. Potentially saves costs.
Makes sense. And integrations, now that it's GA, what does it connect with out of the box?
Right. So at launch, you've got AWS Backup, AWS Private Link for secure connectivity,
Standard stuff. Good.
AWS CloudFormation for infrastructure as code, or AAC.
Good clarification, IAC. Useful context for listeners maybe less familiar?
Yep. Also AWS CloudTrail for logging, KMS Customer Managed Keys for encryption control. It supports standard PostgreSQL views too.
Okay.
And interestingly, it includes a Model Context Protocol server, an MCP server. We'll probably circle back to that when we talk AI later.
MCP server. Okay, noted. Still in databases, Amazon Document DB got an SLA boost.
Yes, a nice one. For multi-AZ setups, the SLA jumped from 99.9% up to 99.99%.
So adding another 9, that's a tenfold higher availability commitment.
Pretty substantial upgrade, yeah.
Oh,
Especially for critical apps relying on Document DB. And importantly, no extra cost if you're already multi-AZ.
good to know. Let's shift to graph databases. Amazon Neptune expanded.
It did. New regions, Canada West, so Calgary, and Asia-Pacific Melbourne.
All right. Any specific versions or instances?
Yeah, this covers the latest engine versions, 1.4.5.0 and up. And instance types include the newer RAG, R7G, R7i families, plus the R6G, R6i, T4G, and T3s. Broad support there.
And Neptune also got one of those MCP servers you mentioned, like Aurora DSQL.
That's right. There's now an MCP server specifically for Neptune. It's all about bridging the gap between, say, generative AI assistants and your graph data.
Making it easier for AI tools to understand and talk to Neptune.
Exactly. The idea is an AI assistant could potentially query your graph using natural language.
Okay, that could be powerful.
It supports OpenCipher, Gremlin, does schema discovery, facilitates those natural language queries, basically simplifies integrating graph data into Gen AI workflows.
Interesting. Back to relational for a moment. RDS for MySQL. Something about extended support.
Correct. A new minor version under extended support was released. 5.7.44 RDS 20250508.
So if you're still on MySQL 5.7 using extended support, this is the one you want.
Yes, it's the recommended one for the latest critical security and bug fixes within that program.
And just quickly remind us what RDS extended support is for.
Right. It's a lifeline, essentially. For major versions past their community end of support date, AWS gives you up to 3 extra years providing crucial security and bug patches.
Buys you time to plan your upgrade to 8.0 or whatever comes next.
Exactly. More breathing room.
Got it. Moving to analytics, Amazon EMR enhanced Spark capabilities for leak formation.
Yeah, there's a key nuance here, though.
Okay, what's the catch?
It applies when your Spark jobs on EMR are working with lake formation register tables, and the job's IAM role has full table access.
So not for fine-grained access scenarios, but for those ETL workflows where you really do need broad permissions.
Precisely. It lists some previous limitations where lake formations controls sometimes got in the way, even with full access granted. Now, you can run DML create, alter, delete, update, merge into directly from Spark on those tables.
Which means you can use more advanced Spark features, libraries, UDFs.
Exactly. And it improves compatibility with things like interactive Spark from SageMaker Studio in those full access scenarios.
Okay, good clarification. Redshift also had an availability update, cluster relocation.
Yes. This is now the default behavior for new or restored RA3 provisioned clusters.
And what does it do?
If Redshift detects resource constraints hitting your cluster in one AZ, it can automatically move the cluster to another AZ for you.
And the crucial part, the endpoint stays the same, right? Applications don't break.
That's key. Same endpoint, transparent to your applications. Keeps things running smoothly.
How does this fit with Redshift's existing HA stuff, like node recovery?
Think of it as another layer. Redshift already handles internal node or drive failures within an AZ. This adds resilience against broader AZ-level resource issues. It supplements the existing recovery.
And it's free for RA3 and on by default.
Yep, automatically enabled and no extra charge for RA3 instances.
Nice. OpenSearch service, script plugins.
Yeah, new support for script plugins.
What does that unlock? What can you do with them?
It lets you add new scripting languages or integrate custom scripting functions into your OpenSearch domains. You need version 2.15 or later.
Use cases, custom scoring, transformations.
Things like that, yeah. Complex custom scoring, maybe special sorting logic, dynamic field transformations during indexing or search.
How do you actually get these plugins in there?
You'd implement the script plugin interface in Java, package it, upload it via console or API. OpenSearch service runs validation checks before you can use it. It's a way to extend the core scripting capabilities.
Got it. And finally for this section, Amazon Managed Service for Prometheus. Query time range.
Big increase here. You can now query metrics over a period of up to 95 days.
95 days, up from 32.
Right. Over 3 months of data queryable directly.
What does that enable? Long-term trends, month over month.
Exactly that. Easier month-over-month comparisons, analyzing trends over a whole quarter, digging into historical incident data further back, all without needing to export data first.
That was quite a tour of databases and analytics. You know, looking across these, it really feels like there's a push towards making highly available, scalable data stores easier to manage.
I agree. Whether it's Aurora DSQL going GA with serverless and multi-region, or DocumentDB getting that extra 9 on the SLA.
Yeah, and also integrating data access with newer things like the AI assistants via those MCP servers we mentioned.
Definitely. Pushing the envelope on availability and performance while also layering in stuff that simplifies newer use cases like Gen AI or just operational tasks like patching MySQL or making Redshift more resilient.
Okay, let's pivot. Let's look at storage, data transfer, and backup updates.
All right. A really interesting one here. A new storage class called Amazon FSSX for Lustre Intelligent Tiering.
Intelligent tiering for Lustre. Okay, what's the headline?
They're calling it the lowest cost Lustre storage in the cloud. But technically, the really key thing is it's the only fully elastic Lustre offering. Provides virtually unlimited scalability.
Fully elastic Lustre. That's new. Who's it for?
Optimized for HDD-based or mixed workloads. Think large data sets, hot and cold data access patterns, where you don't need that consistent SSD low latency for all the data, big HPC or AI data sets.
And the cost benefits. They must be claiming something significant.
They are. Up to 34% better price performance than similar on-prem HDD file storage, and up to 70% better than other cloud Lustre.
How does it achieve that?
It automatically scales storage based on actual usage and access patterns. You only pay for what you store. And it automatically tiers data between frequent access, infrequent access on HDD, and an archive tier.
Is there still an option for faster access if you need it for the hot data?
Yes, you can optionally enable an SSD read cache. So you get SSD performance for the active hot data, while the bulk sits on cheaper HDD. Good balance for certain workloads.
Makes sense. Use cases. You mentioned HPC, AI.
Right. High-performance computing, large-scale AML, things like weather simulation, seismic processing, genomics, training models for advanced driver assistance systems, ADAS.
ADS, right?
Yep.
Self-driving tech. Those models need massive data sets.
Exactly. Petabyte scale ingestion and processing, but maybe only interacting with a subset actively at any one time.
Gotcha. Staying with FSX for NetApp ONTAP, something about FlexCache.
Yes, they added support for write-back mode on FlexCache volumes.
Okay, FlexCache is usually for distributing reads, right? So what does write-back change compared to the old write-around mode?
Right, with write-around, writes to the FlexCache had to go all the way back to the origin on TPAP volume immediately. Wait for acknowledgement. That adds latency, especially over distance.
Okay, and write-back avoids that initial wait.
Yes. With write-back, the write is acknowledged locally, right when it hits the FlexCache. The sync back to the origin happens asynchronously in the background.
Ah, so much lower write latency for distributed workloads.
Big difference for write-intensive distributed stuff. Think collaborative content creation across regions or distributed databases where clients far away are writing to the same logical volume. And it's a free feature update.
Nice. This next one seems smaller, but maybe a big quality of life win. Mount Point for Amazon S3 now supports Space Stab.
Oh, absolutely huge for usability. If you manage EC2 instances needing to mount S3 buckets reliably on startup using Mount Point, this is great.
Before you needed custom scripts, user data.
Yeah, someone to handle it after every boot. Now you just add the Mount Point config to etc. stab like any other file system.
Standard Linux admin practice. Persistent across reboots. Simple.
Much cleaner.
Data transfer now. AWS DataSync. Cross-cloud transfers. This sounds significant.
Very significant. DataSync can now transfer data directly between storage and other major clouds and Amazon S3.
Which clouds?
Google Cloud Storage, Azure Blob Storage, and Oracle Cloud Object Storage.
Directly. Does that mean no data sync agents needed in those other clouds anymore?
Exactly. That's a huge simplification. No agents to deploy or manage over there.
Wow.
It uses DataSync's enhanced mode, optimized for speed and scale with parallel processing, supports virtually unlimited objects.
That drastically cuts the operational overhead for cross-cloud migrations or data pipelines. Huge.
Big news for multi-cloud setups.
Okay, AWS Backup. Enhancements for EC2 restores.
Yes, more flexibility when you restore an EC2 AMI backup via AWS Backup.
What can you change now during the restore?
You can customize the configuration of the attached EBS volumes directly in the workflow.
Like change volume type, size, IOPS, encryption.
All of the above. Change type like GP3, IO2, adjust size, IOPS, throughput, pick a different KMS key for encryption.
Can you add volumes too, ones that weren't in the original backup?
Yes, you can add additional EBS volumes during the restore as well. Works for standard and air-gapped vaults, available via CLI SDK, no extra charge for the feature itself.
That gives you a lot more control right when you need it during recovery. Very useful.
Definitely. And still with AWS Backup, they added support for automatically creating backup indexes and policies.
Backup indexes. Why do I want those?
This is specifically for S3 backups and EBS snapshots.
Yeah.
Enabling indexing in your policies, which you can do at the org level too, is what lets you search inside your backups and do item-level recovery.
Ah, so index first, then search. Find specific files without restoring the whole thing.
Exactly. Search across multiple backups using file name, time, size criteria. And then item-level recovery lets you restore just those specific items you found to an S3 bucket. Much, much faster than restoring a huge volume or bucket for one file.
Okay, another whirlwind section. Storage, transfer, backup. Themes seem to be handling massive scale, like with FSX Luster.
Yeah, and simplifying distributed operations like the FSX on ETAP write back or that amazing DataSync cross-cloud feature.
And adding more control and precision in backup and recovery. The EC2 volume customization, the backup indexing for faster restores.
Agreed. Making big, complex storage and data movement easier and cheaper while also refining those crucial operational tasks.
Let's shift focus again. Core compute, containers, and the AML infrastructure world. What happened there?
Starting with EC2, Graviton 4 instances expanded their reach.
Which ones and where are they now?
The deep variants CAGD, MHGD, RAGD, the ones with local NVM storage, up to 11.4 terabytes. They're now available in Europe, specifically Spain and Asia Pacific and Tokyo.
Right. And just quickly, the Graviton 4 versus Graviton 3 benefits again.
Up to 30% better general performance, up to 40% higher for I/O-intensive databases, up to 20% faster for I/O-heavy analytics. Good for those D's instance workloads.
And there was a new config option for them too, something about bandwidth.
Yes, you can now use the EC2 instance bandwidth weighting configuration. It lets you adjust the network and EBS bandwidth allocated to the instance by 25%.
So you can fine-tune, prioritize network over EBS or vice versa.
A bit more flexibility there, yeah, for workloads where that balance matters.
Okay. Next up, Red Hat Enterprise Linux for AWS GA.
Yes, RHEL for AWS is now generally available, starting with RHEL 10.
What does RHEL for AWS mean beyond just running RHEL on an EC2 instance? Is it different?
It's a specific offering designed for deep integration with AWS services.
How so? What kind of integration?
Things like pre-tuned RHEL images optimized for AWS performance profiles, built-in CloudWatch telemetry integration. The AWS CLI is included out of the box. It supports image mode using container tooling, enhanced security features, optimized networking for E&A.
So the idea is a RHEL experience that's just smoother, more performant, more secure, and easier to manage specifically on AWS.
That's the goal. A ready-to-go, hardened, tuned RHEL image, reducing the effort needed to get those workloads running well and securely on AWS.
Makes sense. Shifting to containers, EKS and EKS distro now support Kubernetes 1.33.
Yep, keeping up with the upstream releases.
Yeah.
And 1.33 brings some significant features now available on EKS.
What are the highlights for EKS users in 1.33?
Big one. Stable support for sidecar containers. That's been long awaited.
Definitely. What else?
Topology-aware routing and traffic distribution. Being able to use taint and tolerations in pod topology, spread constraints. Support for user namespaces in Linux pods. Dynamic resource allocation for network interfaces. And in-place resource resizing vertical scaling without a pod restart.
Stable sidecars and in-place resizing, those are really useful for modern app deployments and efficiency.
Absolutely. You can start using 1.33 now, new clusters or upgrades via console, XGTL, your IAC tools. They do recommend checking EKS cluster insights first for any potential upgrade issues.
Good advice. Also for EKS, configuration insights for hybrid nodes went GA.
Right. Hybrid nodes meaning EKS clusters spanning AWS and on-prem.
Exactly. Managing those can get tricky. This feature surfaces config issues specific to that hybrid setup.
Like what kind of issues? Problems with, say, control plane to webhook communication, or issues affecting kubectl exec or kubectl logs, stuff unique to the hybrid networking or setup.
And it helps fix them.
Yes, it provides actionable remediation guidance via APIs and the console observability dashboard. Basically aims to speed up setup and troubleshooting for EKS hybrid node users.
Okay. We mentioned MCP servers earlier for databases, but there was a broader MCP announcement for serverless and containers.
Yes, this GA covers MCP servers for Lambda, ECS, EKS, and also Finch, the local container development tool.
Okay, let's revisit. What is the Model Context Protocol doing? Why is it valuable for AI code assistance?
So MCP is like a standard interface. It gives AI code assistance real-time, context-aware understanding of specific AWS services.
Meaning the AI doesn't just know Python, it knows Lambda specifics.
Exactly. To generate production-ready code, the AI needs more than just generic programming knowledge. It needs the nuances, configs, best practices of the target service, Lambda, ECS, whatever.
So I could ask an AI assistant using the Lambda MCP server to, say, build a function processing SQS messages to DynamoDB.
And the AI, using the MCP server, can handle the specific Lambda config, the necessary IAM permissions, the SQS and DynamoDB integrations, maybe even apply service-specific optimizations. It makes the AI-generated code much closer to production ready.
And these MCP servers are open source.
Yep, available on GitHub.
Cool. Last one in the section, AWS Neuron, version 2.23.
Right. Neuron is their platform for the Trainium and Inferentia ML accelerators. Version 2.23 is out.
Highlights.
Major one is NxD Inference going GA. That's their library for multi-chip inference on Inferentia. Includes things like persistent cache to speed up model loading.
Any new training capabilities?
Yes, some entering beta. Context parallelism, which lets you train llama models with much longer sequences, up to 32,000 tokens.
Wow, 32K.
And also beta support for model alignment using OR-RPO.
Or RPO. That's one of those newer RL techniques like DPO for fine-tuning based on preferences.
Correct. Aligning models to desired behaviors. Plus, updated library support, PyTorch 2.6, JAX 0.5.3, PyTorch Lightning 2.5, Transformers 4.48, Nemo 2.1. Broad updates.
Developer tools improved too. Profiler.
Yeah, the Neuron Profiler, which is crucial for debugging and optimizing on Neuron hardware, got significant upgrades, claiming 5x faster viewing, better timeline error tracking, improved multi-process visualization with Perfetto.
So, overall, better performance, more features, better tools for ML on Neuron.
That's the gist.
Okay, compute, containers, AI, always packed. I'm definitely seeing that thread of optimizing performance, graviton tuning, RHEL for AWS Neuron updates.
Yeah, optimizing the core infrastructure.
Yeah.
General purpose, specialized like Neuron, even OS integration like RHEL.
And then there's this huge push towards enabling AI integration at the service level. Not just hardware, but things like the MCP servers, making services kind of AI aware.
Absolutely. It's foundational work, plus enabling next-gen apps, especially AI-driven ones, to interact more effectively with existing services.
Right. Okay, let's switch gears. Updates impacting developers and application builders more directly. Developer experience, hosting, media.
Big one here for anyone building automation or custom tooling around AWS. The AWS CDK Toolkit Library is now GA.
CDK Toolkit Library, not the CLI. What is this?
It's a Node.js library. It gives you programmatic access to the core CDK functions, synth, deploy, destroy, diff, etc.
So instead of scripting the CLI, I can call these functions directly from my own JavaScript or TypeScript code.
Exactly. This opens up a ton of possibilities.
Like what?
Integrating CDK ops into custom apps, building internal developer platforms or CLIs that drive CDK actions, embedding CDK steps directly into CI/CD pipelines programmatically, enforcing guardrails in code before deployment, managing ephemeral environments.
Wow, okay, much more flexibility than just using the CLI. Integrating CDK deeper into your own toolchains.
Precisely. More control, more integration options.
AWS Amplify Hosting. Customizable build instances.
Yeah, you now have options for the build instance size.
What are the choices?
Standard, which is 8 gigs memory, 4 vCPU, large, 16 gigs, 8 vCPU, and X large, which is a hefty 72 gigs, 36 vCPU.
So if my app build is huge and slow, I can throw more resources at it.
That's the idea. Optimize the build environment based on your app's needs. Potentially cut down build time significantly for bigger projects.
Makes sense. Amazon Game Lift. Moving SDKs to GitHub.
Yes, the Server SDK, C++, C, Go, and the Unreal and Unity engine plugins are now open source on GitHub.
Benefits of open sourcing those for game devs?
Simplifies integration mainly. They've removed some external dependencies like CMake, OpenSSL, makes it easier to just drop into your project. Also adds native support for cross-compilation, building for ARM servers, better Unreal toolchain integration.
And for the community, more collaboration.
That's the hope. Faster issue resolution as people can see the code, contribute fixes directly, more transparency, stronger community involvement.
Okay. And last one here, Amazon IVS real-time streaming, participant replication.
Yeah, new feature. It lets you copy a participant from one IVS stage to another.
Meaning someone can appear in multiple live streams, multiple stages at the same time.
Simultaneously, yes.
Huh.
Single participant appearing in multiple stages concurrently.
What's the use case?
The common one mentioned is social live streaming competitive modes. Think like a game show or contest with multiple streamers.
Ah, so streamer A's audience could see streamer B reacting live within streamer A's stream layout and vice versa.
Exactly. Enables those kinds of interactive multi-streamer experiences without needing complex setups or multiple video feeds from each participant.
Got it. Looking at these dev-focused updates feels like a theme of more control and flexibility again.
Definitely. Programmatic CDK access, choosing your build instance size, getting into the GameLift SDK code, giving developers more levers.
Improving workflows, integrating with tool chains, optimizing builds, enabling more complex apps.
Exactly. Making life easier and more powerful for builders.
All right, let's pivot to security, identity, and governance updates.
First up, AWS Network Firewall. It now supports multiple VPC endpoints for a single firewall.
How many endpoints per firewall?
Up to 50 VPC endpoints per availability zone for one firewall resource.
50 VPCs connecting to one firewall instance in an AZ. What's the benefit?
Centralization, basically. You can route traffic from a much larger number of VPCs through a single centralized security policy managed by that one firewall. Reduces operational complexity, reduces costs compared to deploying lots of separate firewalls as you scale.
Okay, that sounds useful for larger environments. Security Hub, NIST support.
Yes, AWS Security Hub added support for NIST SP 800-171 revision 2.
That's the framework for protecting controlled unclassified information, CUI, right?
Exactly. Crucial for non-federal systems handling CUI. Security Hub now provides automated security checks aligned with that specific framework.
How many automated checks?
It includes 63 automated controls. Security Hub runs these against your AWS resources to help you assess your compliance posture against NIST 800-171 Rev 2.
Available everywhere. GovCloud too.
Yes, all Security Hub regions, including GovCloud and China, can be enabled centrally. Streamlines compliance checks significantly for that standard.
Good for regulated industries. AWS Secrets Manager. cost allocation tags.
Simple but practical update. You can now tag your secrets for cost allocation.
So just like tagging EC2 instances or S3 buckets, but for secrets.
Exactly. Use your standard AWS cost allocation tags department, team, application, whatever, to categorize and track your Secrets Manager costs.
Oh,
Gives you better visibility into where that spend is coming from.
useful. CloudTrail Lake got some enhancements too.
Two main ones, event enrichment and an expanded event size limit.
Okay, event enrichment first. What's that?
It lets CloudTrail Lake automatically append extra context to the events it captures, things like resource tags and certain AWS global condition keys.
How does adding tags and keys to the raw events help?
Makes searching and analysis much more powerful. You could filter activity logs based on the tags of the resource acted upon, or analyze activity based on the principal tags of who performed the action.
Okay. More context for investigations, auditing.
Right. Makes security analysis and compliance much more efficient, and it integrates with CloudTrail Lake's AI-powered query stuff, too.
And the expanded event size.
The max size for a single event captured in CloudTrail Lake went up from 256 QBOs to 1 MUAB.
4 times bigger. Why does that matter?
Reduces the chance of complex API actions being truncated in the log, gives you more complete visibility, which is vital for deep security analysis to see exactly what happened.
Okay, so across security and governance, seeing scalability with network firewall, compliance automation with Security Hub, cost tracking with Secrets Manager tags, and deeper visibility with CloudTrail Lake. Managing security and governance more effectively at scale seems to be the theme.
That sums it up well. Tools to handle growing complexity, more VPCs, secrets, detailed logs, while simplifying compliance and cost tracking.
All right, let's wrap up the announcements with updates specifically focused on cost management.
First, AWS Cost Explorer rolled out a new cost comparison feature.
What does this comparison feature do?
It automatically detects significant cost changes between any 2 months you pick, and then it points out the key drivers behind those changes.
So instead of me digging through bills trying to figure out why last month was higher, Cost Explorer just tells me.
Pretty much. It highlights things like usage changes, the impact of credits or refunds, changes in volume discounts, the main reasons for the variance.
Where do you see this?
There's a new Top Trends widget on the Billing Console homepage showing the top 10 variations from the last 2 months, and a dedicated compare view inside Cost Explorer for deeper dives between any 2 months. Aims to simplify understanding cost fluctuations.
That sounds incredibly useful. And the Cost Optimization Hub. Preferences for savings plans and reservations.
Right. In the Cost Optimization Hub, where you get recommendations for right-sizing, graviton migration, etc., you can now set preferences.
Preferences for what exactly?
Your preferred savings plans or reserved instance terms, 1 year or 3 year, and your preferred payment options, all upfront, partial, or no upfront.
And setting these preferences, it tailors the recommendations.
Exactly. It makes sure the projected savings and the specific recommendations you see in the hub align with your organization's actual commitment strategy. Makes the advice more relevant and accurate for your financial planning.
Okay, those cost updates feel very practical. One helps you understand why costs changed. The other makes optimization advice fit your strategy better.
Yeah, targeting common pain points, diagnosing cost spikes quickly, and getting recommendations that are actually actionable based on how your company buys commitments.
Well, that was definitely a packed week, May 27th to 30th. We covered a lot across databases, storage, compute, dev tools, security, cost management.
Yeah, quite a range. Foundational services getting big upgrades like Aurora DSQL GA, Document DB hitting 4 nines, storage tackling massive data with FSx Luster, simplifying cross-cloud with DataSync.
Compute tuning with Graviton 4 and RHEL for AWS, significant container updates in EKS, and those MCP servers popping up everywhere, integrating AI assistants more deeply.
Developer productivity boosts with programmatic CDK, customizable Amplify builds, security and governance scaling up management, enhancing visibility and compliance.
And cost tools getting sharper. Staying informed about these kinds of updates is really how you find new capabilities, refine your architectures, improve performance or cost, and just stay effective on AWS.
It's about seeing how these new features might solve your specific technical challenges or help you reach your goals faster.
Absolutely. So to leave you with a thought for the week, building on all this, considering these advancements, especially things like AI integration via MCP, making global, highly available data stores more manageable, how might these capabilities change the types of applications you consider building on AWS, and how might you approach designing them differently in the coming months? Something to think about.